For years, I mean years, it's been the one question on every Marvel fan's mind. When are the mutants coming? Well, it looks like that wait is finally over. We're starting to get the first real, concrete details and some seriously credible reports about Marvel Studios' massive plan for the X-Men. And today, we are going to break down every single piece of this puzzle. We're talking about the new creative team, the starting roster, and the huge long-term strategy that could honestly define the entire future of the MCU. And maybe the most exciting piece of news right off the bat is about the person co-writing this whole thing. The project's in the hands of Lee Sunong-jin, the absolute genius behind the Netflix show Beef. And his own words just say it all, don't they? I watch the animated series every Saturday morning. I care about the characters a lot. This isn't just some writer for hire. This is a real, honest-to-goodness, lifelong fan. After a few years where fans felt some projects were a little disconnected, this feels like a huge shift. Marvel is making sure the people crafting this new saga have a deep, personal love for the world of the X-Men. So here's our game plan for this breakdown. First, we'll get into the massive changes coming to the MCU that are making all of this even possible. Then we'll meet the new creative team. After that, we dive into the stuff everyone's dying to know, the rumored team roster and their first big bad. We'll also figure out where Deadpool fits into this giant plan before we put it all together to see what Marvel's grand strategy really looks like. Okay, first things first. Before we can even really talk about the X-Men specifically, we have to wrap our heads around the massive tectonic shift that's about to hit the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because the world the X-Men are stepping into, it's not going to be the same one we've known for the last 16 years. The key phrase we got to get used to here is soft reboot. Now, this is not a complete wipe of the slate, okay? We're not talking about a Days of Future Past situation where whole timelines just poof, get erased. It's more like a strategic refresh. It's how a long-running universe gets to have its cake and eat it too. All that history, the snap, the Battle of New York, it all still happened. It matters. But this gives the studio the freedom to make some huge changes, bring in new actors for iconic roles, and tell totally new stories without being shackled to every single piece of continuity that's come before. And let's be super clear here. This isn't just some fan theory or an internet rumor. This is coming straight from the top. The head of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, has gone on the record saying a soft reboot is coming, probably right around Avengers Secret Wars. He even specifically said this opens the door to recasting foundational heroes like Iron Man and Captain America, so their stories can continue, just with new faces in a new reality. And that brings us to the big question for our breakdown today. If the entire MCU is getting a fresh coat of paint, what does that mean for the mutants? Well, it means they have the ultimate blank canvas. They aren't just being awkwardly shoved into an existing timeline where we all have to ask, where have you guys been for the last 15 years? No. Instead, they can be built from the ground up as a core, fundamental part of whatever this new universe is going to become. So with a new universe and a fresh start, you absolutely need a new creative vision. And honestly, the team Marvel is putting together to bring this to life, it might just be one of the most exciting parts of this whole story. The movie's being directed by Jake Schreier, who's already part of the Marvel family, and get this, he's bringing his writing team with him. We already mentioned Lee Sunong-jin, the creator of the incredible show Beef, and he's joined by Joanna Collo, co-showrunner of the equally amazing series The Bear. This isn't just a random group of talented people. It's a team that already works well together, and more importantly, they specialize in prestige, character-driven stories about messy, complicated relationships. That sounds perfect for the X-Men. Now here is a little detail that actually says a lot. Reports are confirming that this new team isn't just polishing an old script, they're doing a complete page one rewrite. That is a massive signal for Marvel. It tells us the studio is giving this team the keys to the car, letting them bring their own unique vision to the table. They're getting to fundamentally rethink the story and the characters, not just work with leftovers. And if you're a fan worried about whether this new team gets the X-Men, well, this should put you at ease. The director, Jake Schreier, has said that he and his team are spending the year just diving deep into the comics. They're reading everything from Chris Claremont's legendary run that basically defined the modern X-Men, all the way to Grant Morrison's mind-bending new X-Men from the 2000s. They are absolutely immersing themselves in the lore, making sure their new vision is built on a deep respect for the source material. This is the part we've all been waiting for. We've got a new universe, a new creative team, but who is actually going to be on the team? The reports are all pointing to a very smart, very deliberate, back-to-basics approach. It looks like they've learned from the mistakes of some past superhero movies. The plan is to start small, to start focused. Instead of just throwing a dozen mutants at the screen all at once, the movie is reportedly going to center on a younger core group. A group that we, the audience, can really connect with and watch grow over a whole saga. This avoids that big problem of a bloated roster where nobody gets enough screen time to really develop. And who is that core group? None other than the original 5. Yep, they're going all the way back to the beginning. Just like in Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's very first comic back in 1963, the team is reportedly going to be built around Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Hank McCoy, Bobby Drake, and Warren Worthington III. Cyclops, Jean, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. This is the foundation, the absolute heart of the X-Men. And choosing them, it's about so much more than just nostalgia. It's about the theme. By starting with this first class, the story can really dig into what makes the X-Men tick. Scott and Jean's relationship, Hank's struggle with how he looks, Bobby's youthful energy, but most importantly, it lets the film establish that central defining conflict right from the jump, their fight to protect a world that hates and fears them. But starting with the original 5 means one very famous, very clawed mutant is missing. Reports are saying that Wolverine will not be a part of this initial team, and wow, are fans divided on this one. On the one hand, a lot of people are saying, look, after 2 decades of the Fox movies being all about him, it is a long past time for other characters to get the spotlight. This is the perfect chance to finally let Cyclops be the leader he's supposed to be. But on the other hand, after how huge Hugh Jackman's return was in Deadpool and Wolverine, sidelining the character right away feels like a massive missed opportunity to some. For them, an X-Men team without its most famous member just feels wrong. And that really is the big creative debate here, isn't it? Is it more important to honor the comics and give a new generation their time to shine? Or should the MCU just capitalize on its most popular, most bankable mutant? It's a really tough call with no easy answer. Now, the reports do say the team will be the original 5 plus a few others. And the 2 names that keep popping up in credible reports are 2 other fan favorites, the Southern powerhouse Rogue and the Cajun charmer Gambit. And see, this is a perfect example of Marvel playing chess, not checkers. Bringing in Rogue and Gambit doesn't just give us 2 cool characters and their classic fiery romance, it strategically places a really important piece on the board for the wider MCU. You introduce Rogue now, and you set up a potential and comic-accurate collision course with Captain Marvel down the line. That's a showdown fans have been dreaming of for years. Okay, so we have our heroes, but who are they up against? Well, the reports are suggesting that in a really smart move to not just repeat the Fox films, Marvel is skipping Magneto, for now. Instead, they're going with a villain who can be a long-term, overarching, and deeply personal threat for this whole new saga. And that villain is rumored to be the master manipulator himself, Mr. Sinister. For anyone who might not know, this guy, Nathaniel Essex, was a brilliant but totally unethical scientist back in the Victorian era. He was given immortality and crazy powers by the ancient mutant Apocalypse, and he spent centuries pulling strings from the shadows. His entire goal is to manipulate mutant DNA to create the perfect being. And he has a very specific, very creepy obsession with the combined genes of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Choosing Sinister as the first villain is just a genius move for long-term storytelling. He's not just a one-and-done bad guy. His obsession with the Summers and Grey families immediately makes the story super personal for the team's leaders. Then you have his genetic experiments, which in the comics lead directly to creating major characters like Cable. And finally, his own origin story is the perfect, natural bridge to eventually bringing in the ultimate X-Men villain, Apocalypse. Sinister isn't just a villain. He's a key that unlocks decades of future stories. But listen, the main X-Men movie isn't the only place we're going to see mutants. It looks like Marvel has a whole separate, parallel plan for introducing other beloved characters, and it all seems to revolve around the Merc with a Mouth. Hot off the massive success of his team-up with Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds himself recently said something really interesting. He said he doesn't think he'll ever do another pure solo Deadpool movie. He sees the character now as more of a supporting player who just works best in a group, and that heavily implies his next movie isn't going to be Deadpool 4, but some kind of team-up film, probably an X-Force movie. And according to industry insiders, Reynolds is already pushing for who he wants in that group. The list apparently includes bringing back Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which, makes total sense, plus the return of Josh Brolin's Cable, and, most excitingly, a brand new MCU version of Storm. This is basically creating a second, separate, and probably much more violent mutant team operating in the MCU. When you just lay it all out like this, you can really see the whole elegant strategy taking shape. Instead of jamming every popular mutant into one movie, they're intelligently seeding them across different franchises. The main X-Men reboot, that'll establish the core classic team. Deadpool's corner of the MCU will handle guys like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and the more hardcore characters. And for other huge A-list heroes like Storm, well, they might get another entry point altogether. For instance, we know Black Panther 3 is confirmed for Marvel's Phase 7, which is the same phase that's supposed to be all about mutants. It's the perfect opportunity to introduce Aurora Monroe, aka Storm. Doing it this way would let the MCU explore her iconic romance and marriage to the King of Wakanda from the comics, creating this powerful story that ties the mutant struggle directly to one of the MCU's biggest, most important kingdoms. Okay, so let's pull all these different threads together and look at the whole picture. When you connect all these reports, all the creative choices, and the big announcements, a really clear, really ambitious, and frankly, really exciting future starts to emerge. What this all shows is a multi-pronged, long-term strategy, not just a plan for a single movie. They're using the soft reboot to give mutants a clean slate. They're focusing deep on that core team to make sure the characters are strong. They're making the bold choice to sideline Wolverine at first, so other characters can shine. They're building a true saga by planting the seeds with a long-term villain like Sinister. And they're expanding wide, building out the whole mutant world by dropping characters into other franchises. At the end of the day, what all this really points to is a patient and methodical plan. Marvel isn't just rushing to get everyone on screen at once. They are carefully and deliberately building a foundation. It's a foundation that's designed to support the X-Men, not just for one movie or even one trilogy, but to make them a central, sustainable, and deeply interconnected pillar of the entire MCU for the next decade and beyond. It's an incredibly ambitious plan, right? It's filled with exciting creative choices and a really clear, deep respect for the comics. It just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. With this whole new world of possibilities opening up, from the classic First Class to Deadpool's crew to the royalty in Wakanda, which mutant are you most excited to finally see get their definitive, long overdue MCU moment?